To be very quick here now.
Yeah.
Beautiful spot, and I'm just thinking, you're not. This is not your first rodeo. You've done a lot of great little restaurants and cafes and all that over the years.
Yeah.
But this is different because not only do you have to serve the people who walk in the door, but you're serving the people behind the counter too.
Yeah, I think that's what attracted me to it initially, is that when I came in and I had a chat with Phil, who's the CEO, he just sold it to me so quickly when he explained who and what the lads were. And I think, I mean, I've lived here 6 years. I never knew this building existed. And I mean, I had a very rough idea of what Carrigeaton was.
Yeah.
I'd heard it had some association, you know, with the rehabilitation centre, but I didn't realise, I didn't know what transitional housing was. I didn't know what it provided. So when I came in and I met 4 or 5 of the lads on the first day, I was just taken back by their stories. Like within minutes they were telling me like what they'd gone through. And then we kind of put it to a few of the lads. I sat inside with a group of 15 of them and said, this is who I am, we want to open a cafe, you know, who's in? And we had 4 or 5 guys very quickly say, you know, send us letters, CVs, we want in. And we just went with that, and we decided to staff it only from guys that live in the house.
Now I know it opened in October, but what was it like? I don't know how long before that it was first presented to you by Phil. Whether
it was only weeks.
Okay.
I mean, it was a very quick turnaround. Like he actually approached Shane, my brother, and Shane had just taken over the Fat Fox. So he was like, look, I've committed here, but he said, look, I know Gav's at a loose end. You know, we had spent a lot of time at home during lockdown, and then we decided it was time for me to go back to work. And it just was perfect timing. You know, it was one of those things. Phil wanted to open a cafe. They had the space, they had the permission, but no one associated with Tiglin kind of had ever done anything like that. I have experience running cafes. He was looking for someone, and we just had one chat when the president was here, and we kind of just said, look, let's put our heads together. And within 2 weeks we decided what we were doing, and we kind of had it ready within a month.
It seems like almost, you know, ready-made in regard to the location. Obviously it's perfect. I mean, you're right by the cove, and you've got a lovely little building, and you've got your space outside. You're going to be adding more chairs. We should, I'll take a photograph, but we should mention that you've got a sauna right behind me here now.
Yeah, Fat Sale came up only this week, and it's just, I mean, for me it's a perfect addition. I mean, Steve then was going to have access to the hundreds of sea swimmers we get every day, and then, you know, he attracts so many new clients to us. I mean, they'll be able to use our toilet facilities, and as far as I'm concerned, once we get them in the door, we'll be able to sell them what we do.
So I'm wondering then, whether it took a long time, you know, weeks maybe for you to sort of feel, okay, this is all going to work, or whether you like with any new premises, you just got to keep yourself on your toes and try to figure out the shape of.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I think initially the initial idea was, because it's attached to a charity and stuff, and there wasn't huge funds available to kind of get it off the ground. The initial idea was to kind of go cheap and cheerful, a second-hand coffee machine, you know, like a bean supplier that was going to give us free cups and stuff. And I kind of suggested to the guys that maybe we do the opposite, because I said, people will come and they'll support you as a charity, but I said, if the coffee's not good, they might come once, they may come a second time, but after that they'll be back to every other coffee shop that that does a quality product. So I said, let's do the opposite. I said, let's be as good as anywhere in the town, because I said people are going to come in with the idea that it's attached to, you know, a charity, it's probably going to be cheap and cheerful, it might be like, you know, and I said, no, let's get local producers that produce quality things. And I said, let's train the lads to the same standard that I would have trained anybody in any cafe I've ever worked in. And, you know, when I put it that way, they were like, well, let's see how that works.
So no instant coffee?
No instant coffee. No, we actually, I tell you what, we
got Rogue Roasters.
We got Rogue Roasters,
no,
which is my brother,
I looked them up. Okay, because I see Rogue Roasters in Oregon. I said, okay, that's not them. It must be a different Rogue Roasters.
You know, Shane does pure coffee.
Right.
So that was his initial brand, and then they did a kind of like a secondary brand called Rogue Roasters.
Right.
And he supplies Lane 14 and Bray as well, and I think there's one other. But he gave us a coffee bean to train with when I was training the lads in. So we did a full 2 weeks of just coffee training before we even opened the doors, as the place was being built. And Shane had given us a Guatemalan bean, and it just, everyone that tasted it, the CEO was in, everyone, and they were like, what is this coffee? And I said, it's a training bean Shane gave me. It wasn't even what we were going to buy off, and we were going to buy the Brazilian. Yeah. And so they were like, well, can you get this one? And I said, we'll ask him. And I rang him, and he said, like, you know, it's a little bit more expensive, but I think the extra euro or two per kilo has basically put us on the map as a coffee destination. Like, we've had so many people pop back in after drinking it, kind of going, that was genuinely like one of the best coffees I've had. And it's amazing to hear that from me, and obviously then from Shane, who's a supplier. But I mean, we have regulars who are in here 5 days a week at the same time every single morning, and that for me shows me that you're doing something okay, because people don't come for something every day and pay for it unless they're very happy with it, you know.
And there's a strong belief amongst on the streets that coffee is going to become a big thing in Greystones. So you're probably arriving at the right time.
I think we're kind of we just got in before the bubble burst. No, I think we're number 19 or 20, like from one end of the town to the other. But there's always room for somewhere that's doing it right, you know.
Sure, and I think your location in these situations is crucial, because it's the convenience, and obviously the place is beautiful and you like it there and all that. But if it's a case of you go for your swim or you're down by the seafront,
that's it. But I mean, it's funny for a seaside town like Greystones, we're probably the only one that actually has a view of the actual ocean.
Yeah.
I think, you know, down in Spenloves and stuff, I think you can just about maybe see the sea if you stand on it. But like, to think that it's a seaside town and there's 20 coffee shops and none of them can actually see the sea.
Now, when it came to the lads just getting into the actual art of barista, I don't know whether there's a funny collage of crazy, or whether it was all pretty quickly kind of.
I kind of knew within the first hour or two, at least two of them were going to get it. Like,
right.
It's kind of very obvious, especially when, like, I've been doing this 20 years. You can tell, there's telltale signs.
It's like a musical instrument, really.
Very similar, yeah. You see someone pick it up and all of a sudden you show them one note and then they'll progress and you're like, okay, he knows what he's doing. And you know, some of the lads they all progress at a different pace. But I mean, at this point, all four of them, I'd be very happy to let them make a coffee training.
Now, you're open from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I know most of the healthy people are in bed by 4, so
that's it. So there's no point.
Yeah, but
certainly coming into the summer, we're going to look to extend it from 7 to 7 in the summer months and go 7 days a week.
And now we should mention, and we'll kind of update as it progresses. But with the sauna, that will be Sundays, or I don't know what the plan is. Or
at the moment, Steve is going to this week. He's going to open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Great.
Following week, he's probably going to go 4 days. And we actually had a sauna and a swim yesterday, and we had a good chat. And he wants to, at some point before the summer, be open 7 days a week.
Great.
Which will match us. So it would make sense that we both open similar hours. We may even extend our hours up to 5 o'clock to match him.
Yeah.
And like I said, I mean, I was here in August on the Cove, near the end of August, one of the days where it was 20-something degrees, and there was like 200 people in that Cove at 7 in the evening. So I mean, how could you not have a there's nowhere else for them to go unless they want to walk back down to the harbour or onto the main street. I mean, we're such a convenient location. And we have the gelato, we have the pastries. We're going to try and add sandwiches as well, so like we can do like little picnic baskets for people to take to the beach. We have a lot of plans. We plan to put maybe a nice coffee machine outside, build a little lean-to out here with heaters so people don't get cold. I mean, we have a lot of plans, but you know, it's slow and steady. Well,
that was going to be my final question. Maybe you just answered it. Is that, you know, just in regard to the long-term plan, because everything seems to be right, but obviously it takes work to make everything, you know, perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people come in and just go, oh, the place looks great, and like people comment like it's very clean, but I mean, as soon as we're quiet, the lads are out with, you know, scrubbers, and every surface is wiped a couple of times a day. You know, we have the sweep and brush out, keep all the stones clean and tidy. Like, there's a lot of things we'd like to do to make that easier, but at the same time, like I said, we're limited fund-wise as to what we can do, but people's donations of their time and their expertise has blown me away. Like, we've had our artists do some work for us, painted signs. The guy who built the entire interior was a carpenter who was married to one of the girls who runs the day program, and he just came in and did it all for free. Like, we just said, you supply the wood, I'll give you a couple of days of labour for free, because he's, you know, he's quite invested in the charity. And I mean, it's been amazing what people have done for us.
Now, we should say that, you know, as much as there's so much you know, good up here, and it's a beautiful spot, and the coffee's great, and you're going to have your saunas, but really what's important here too is the fact that the money goes back to Tig Lane. So it really is doing 100%, a lot of.
I think it's kind of twofold. It's like, obviously the money going back to Tig Lane is great, but I think the actual training of the lads is, for me, what is the training, and also having them face to face with the customers and breaking that kind of stigma, I think, attached maybe to addiction.
Yeah.
You know, so some people have a perception or a preconception of what someone who's a drug addict is going to be, and then they go in and get a coffee with us, and you'd see some of them would say, what's the big blue house there behind us? And I just turn to Sean and say, well, you can tell, and he's like, well, that's it's a reintegration house. It's kind of, and then they're like, oh, brilliant, and he's like, and that's my bedroom, you know, just that one there. And they're like, you live there? And because up to that point they've only had an interaction with, for them, a very good barista, so they don't see him as someone who's, you know, and anybody can have an addiction issue. Like, that's, I think people pigeonhole it as what they see in their mind as a drug addict, and that's not, like, I've met a plethora of people here, like from their 60s down to like late teens, and they've all got a different story, and I think anyone can get caught up in it. And that's what I think we've had customers who've said to us when they hear the story, well, listen, I have a cousin who I think probably could do a program like this, and people open up very quickly as to where addictions touch them and their family.
Two quickies then. I do feel for the staff that they really can't come up with any excuse for being late because they're right there.
They live
no traffic, the train didn't come and all that kind of stuff.
I can just go and knock on the window.
Yeah. And the last thing is the rest of the Beetle. I have a Beetle, I just might need parts.
I know, yeah.
What happened to the rest of the Beetle?
That was Phil's car, our CEO.
Yes,
he drove it for years.
The rust coloured
he was going to sell it, and he said to someone, would you cut it in half and wrap it? And he had a VW camper van which was wrapped the exact same way, so he used to tow it behind, and then the kids would sit outside having their lunch and their picnics, and he just had it in the back garden, and he said, do you think that'd make a feature? And I said, you know, I think it would. So that's actually a reused that's box here. It was the box that coffee machine arrived in, and one of the guys is a metal worker, and he put the base onto it, so we plan to put sails then above it so people can stand under when it's raining, and they can throw the kids in the back, put a cage in maybe.
Gotta say, nicely done, and I think people are going to follow this now with a huge amount of interest, but more importantly, just very handy, just very beautiful spot to go to. So
well, that's it. I mean, as much as it's attached to a charity and it's given back, we wanted this to be, and the thing that sold it for me was Phil said, I want this to be a community space. He said, I want anyone that lives in the community that works here to be able to feel that comfortable to bring their kids down, sit them in the car, have coffees, have chats, and people sit here for hours outside.
What about people who are not from Greystones? Are they allowed?
I mean, we're thinking of bringing like a little passport in where you have to.
Good plan. I think that works.